Hi, welcome. I'm Hetty Bryant and I'm your subject convener and lecturer for this session for MGT 549 Toxic Leadership. If you're looking at this is the first day of session, so I hope you're all energised by and ready to participate in this subject. So I'm going to give you an overview of the subject, go through some of the assessments and give you a bit of a sense of the learning environment. So first of all, I'll introduce myself. As I said, I'm Hetty Bryant. I've been at Charles Sturt University for 14 years, working in leadership and professional development, organisational change and culture, service culture, a whole range of different areas that I've worked in at Charles Sturt Uni, and most recently for the last couple of years I've also been dabbling in the lecturing space, and this year I'm fully in that space, as well as coordinating the Charles Sturt University Leadership for Women program. So before I came to CSU, I worked for many years in agriculture and natural resource management and catchment management. First degree in ag, second Master of Environmental Management, and I worked in vertebrate pest research, you name it. And just before I came here, I did a stint coordinating the establishment of the Australian Wildlife Health Network. So actually coming here and working with people in organisational change has been quite different, but quite rewarding, and I love working in the leadership space. The learning environment, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about your assessment, because I know everyone's always anxious about assessment, and just give a bit of an introduction and overview for the subject. And then I've got Q&A, but there's no real Q&A. It's more about giving you my contact details at the end. So first of all, the learning side is Interact 2, and some of you you've done more than one subject, and so you'll be familiar with that learning side. If you're not, go into the site, be an explorer, have a really good look around, go down the left hand side, click on all the links there, look at all of those, get a sense of what the subject's about, look at the subject outline, go to the weekly topics, step yourself through those to work out what we're doing each week. Click on the discussion forums, engage in the discussions. Really important to engage in the discussions. I've got one particular forum there for your participation for assessment 2, and we'll talk a bit more about that. We really want to establish a learning community for this subject. It is part of the Master of Business Leadership. However, I know there's students from the MBA and Masters of Commerce, etc. It'd be really good if we could all work together and share practice, and that's the intent of assessment 2 actually. So we have online meetings every couple of weeks. I normally have them every couple of weeks. We've got one next week, and then the week in between I have a chat session, just so we can talk about your issues, anything that help you need with assessment items, anything that's intrigued you, whatever. We do record them, and so they're available afterwards, and I put the links up straight afterwards so that you can access them at any time, because I know people are very busy and no time's the right time. We also have people in different continents as well. Go into the room, have a bit of a look around, make sure you're set up properly, that you understand it, that you look at the environment, you can work things out so you don't feel alien when you first get in there, and make sure that the link is working for you. Readings and text, well, there's no text for this subject. There's just a lot of readings, and we do have some videos as well each week. And each of those, for the topics, we have guidance each week. There are activities for you to do yourself. There's personal reflection that you can reflect in your blog space, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And also there are group activities as well where you can work together. The readings will guide you through the subject, but you do need to read a lot more widely to actually work out what the different concepts are and that sort of thing as well. And finally, there's a CSU Think Space, which is your personal blog, and I've spelled that wrongly, I apologise, space, where you will lodge your e-portfolios. This is a requirement of the Master of Business Leadership students, not of other students. If you want to use it though, it's a really great place to use, and I'll talk about that too. Okay. So the CSU Think Space, as I said, your assessment items, what I want you to do is to set up the Think Space and start to put your assessment items there, your blogging, etc., your weekly insights. And when you submit your assignment through East, you put your login details and your password and the link to that Think Space. And I have a look at that assessment in the Think Space, but also lodge as a Word document as well. And I prefer Word to PDF because it's easier for me to mark. I like to give a lot of comments to you. For those students who aren't doing the Masters of Business Leadership, you don't need to use the Think Space, but as I said, if you want to, you can. And we also have an online discussion forum, and assessment 2 is participation in that forum. So I'm going to step through the assessments. The first one is about toxicity in the workplace, and it's a situational analysis. So in this one, you are going to conduct a toxic leadership assessment in a work or in a non-work situation. And then you can describe the stakeholders, the clients that are involved, the members of the club or whatever, the leader, the team, and the impacts on them and the organisation, and then discuss what you've learned and how you will incorporate this into your leadership practice. So that first one's really more of an introductory assessment, and you can build on that assessment for your final assessment as well, and for your participation on the forum. That's due on the 31st of July, so I urge you to get started on that now. Assessment 2, I also urge you to get started straight away. That's participating in a forum, and we have discussion, we have tasks for that as well. So what we wanted you to do was to identify a toxic leadership challenge or challenges that you face. Can be in a work or a non-work context. It should be something that you are willing to share with your peers in the online forum. So you may have already done that when you do your situational analysis. You should be prepared to participate and discuss the colleagues. That's leadership challenges in responding to toxicity. So when people post things, to be able to respond to those and get a bit of a collaborative discussion going about that and learning from each other. Discussion might include alternative possibilities for your response to that toxic issue. How did the situation arise? What emotions or feelings does the situation evoke? What resources may be drawn on to respond to the situation? So all of this information that you're sharing and you're gathering rolls up towards your final assessment as well. Okay? And I will be monitoring your participation on the forums. So it's about 30 students. It'll be a bit of a task for me, but it'll be a very enjoyable task. And I'll make sure that your confidentiality is maintained. I want you to realise that sometimes people will share things that can be quite confronting. I'll look at it from a safety aspect, but I also urge you all, as a matter of ethics, not to share any of the stuff with anyone else, that you just keep what you're sharing with your cohort in this actual subject. And that's about leadership as well, ethical leadership. And we talk about ethical and moral leadership throughout the subject because they go hand in glove with toxic leadership. This final assessment is really about that situation analysis and how you can develop a response framework or response plan for that. So the final assessment asks you to, and I'm just going to turn the page, ask you to identify and describe a leadership situation that is toxic or potentially toxic. And you've already started to do that. You've already got those situations. So you're ahead on this assessment. Consider the situation in the context of what you've learned, your relevant readings, the theoretical perspectives. Then to evaluate your response options, taking into account the relevant constructs you have identified. So the things that you're starting to learn about yourself and that resonate with you and with your values. Very important that you look at your values and your morals and your ethics. Develop a decisional algorithm utilizing a comprehensive conceptual framework. Well, what we really want you to look at is developing a decision-making matrix using the conceptual framework that you've started to. So you actually have to underpin your decisions by theory. Okay? and then explore the risk to yourself and develop a response plan. So the response plan's the most important thing that protects your personal growth and professional learning, leadership development, but at the same time balancing this against your social, moral and ethical obligations. So always checking in with your values and your obligations, really important. Okay. As I said, the Interact2 site has lots of resources. The Getting Started with ePortfolios is a very good resource to actually work out why you're using ePortfolios, and that's for Masters of Business students, business leadership students, but others may wish to do that too, because if you want to advance in your career in these days, it's important to have an ePortfolio. The participation forum, as I said, there is one set up in the discussion forums. If you click on the left-hand side of the Interact2 site on discussions, all of the discussions for each week and for the assessments and the participation forum are there. Turnitin, I will be using Turnitin, which is plagiarism software, just to make sure that everyone is writing their own work. And so I've also got a link to that too. You may wish to create your own Turnitin account so that you can check your work as well. You may also wish to look at the plagiarism links. They're in the subject outline, or Google and search plagiarism on the CSU website. So you find out more about plagiarism. And also with assessments, it's really important with your references that you use the APA style guide. And information about that APA style guide is available through the library, and we have links to that as well. Okay? Very important that you reference things properly. I do urge you to use EndNote because it does it for you, and it's magic. So, introduction and overview, topic 1, which is the first week. So you'll start to explore what is toxic leadership. The straightforward definition is about anything that damages your health or your well-being, or a practice or behaviour that you clearly see is wrong. But there are nuances as that, and who determines what is toxic and on what basis. So some practices may be very healthy. For instance, some charity organisations may be working 30, really long hours each day. I was going to say 30 hours a day, which is impossible, but they might be working something like 12 hours a day or more, doing really good and altruistic work, and the leader may be very charismatic, but it's a toxic workplace. It's a toxic leadership because you're not healthy, you're stressed, your well-being is impacted. So we'll explore those nuances, and it's not straightforward what exactly it is. What we think toxic leadership is, what we've always led to believe. We're trying to challenge your thinking about that and to look more critically about what it really is. And as you go through, you'll begin to build your own theoretical and practice-based framework. Everything resonates differently for different people. You'll read something that resonates with you, with your ethics, with your morals, with your practice, with your discipline. So you develop a framework to respond to toxic leadership and to address your own leadership practice to make sure it isn't toxic as well. Okay? So that's about all. If you have any further questions, you wish to contact me, email's really preferable, and I'll get back to you within 3 working days because I do work part-time, but it's normally I will respond a lot more than that. If you email me on the weekend, though, I may not respond to you. So if you really need something, so you want to do some writing on the weekend, email me before the weekend is really good practice. And you can phone me as well and leave a message if I'm not here, and I'll respond to you pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to sharing practice with you and your engagement in this session, and I'm hoping that you will enjoy it and learn a lot of different and get different perspectives on toxic leadership. So welcome, and we'll see you all on the forums next week. Cheers.